Alexa, play Bob Marley. All right, good morning, guys and gals. Happy Thursday. Do a quick sound check here in the chat. Make sure we are cooking. Hey, RB, Camillo, good morning. How we doing? How are we doing? All right, guys, we'll jump in here. I'll take you through the pre-market prep, and then for those of you in the mastery, we'll be live at 10:30 a.m. Central. And then I'll be in the Centrals room at 11:30 Central. Back to back. But all right, what do we got here this morning? The futures. S&P futures up about 0.5%. Crude oil down about 1/4. QQQ futures up about 1%. And then checking out the YM. YM is up about 0.3, and the RUT. The RUT is also up about 0.5%. So as is tradition, a little bit of green. And then if we look at the squeezes here, I'll pull up the indices. We got a handful. And if I've learned one thing over the years, you don't want to fight a squeeze. I'd rather fight Mike Tyson than fight a squeeze. All right, let me grab my drawing tool. Keep on forgetting my drawing tool. How else can I draw? All right, where is she? Bear with me. Bear with me. Come on, Camtasia. Oh, there we go. I already got it up. All right, so on the indices, we take a look at a few of the squeezes here. On the 2-day time frame, we have a squeeze in the IWM, the QQQ, and the Dow. On the daily chart, we have a squeeze on IWM, QQQ, Dow Jones, and the S&Ps. And then on the 4-hour, QQQ, Dow Jones, SPX, and the RSP. So we'll take a look at the SPX here first. And we got that fresh daily squeeze yesterday, and off she went. Big breakout, brand new all-time high. From here, I think we're looking for 5,250 to maybe 5,300. Take a look at that 4-hour squeeze and a pretty big push out of that slingshot. S&P is looking good, and then the QQQ. Got a few more squeezes here on the Qs. The 4-hour, the daily, and the 2-day. Y'all know the drill. 4-hour squeeze fires. That can trigger the daily squeeze. Daily squeeze fires. That can trigger your 2-day squeeze. I think we're looking for 450 plus. 450 plus sounds like a pretty good time to me. And then we'll take a look at the squeezes on the futures. NQ. The 4-hour squeeze fired, like a good squeeze does. And then we've got that daily slingshot squeeze and a bull squeeze on the 2-day time frame. It's my favorite thing in the world. Squeeze on squeeze action. And then on the S&P futures, we have, drum roll please, nothing. No squeezes. Off to the races. All right, and now on the money makers, the big boys. We've got a lot over here as well. We got a 2-day squeeze in Microsoft, and we're long Microsoft right now. And on the daily time frame, Amazon, Meta, Netflix, they're all cranking out that slingshot squeeze. We did have one on Microsoft that fired to the upside yesterday, which might get the party going towards 430, 435-ish. And then we got a boatload here on the 4-hour. Amazon, Meta, Netflix, BAC, NVIDIA, and the NQ. 2-hour squeezes on Microsoft, Netflix, NVIDIA, and then you got a few on the 1 hour, a few on the 30, and a couple over there on the 5. So from here, as always, keep the focus on the indices first. As goes the stocks, goes the market, meaning you take the S&Ps. If they can officially fire that daily squeeze to the upside, the Microsofts, the Nvidias, the Amazons, pretty much everything, you should get a little bit more wind at your back. So, a couple stocks here. Take a look at Microsoft first. And we got long Microsoft on Tuesday. Took our entry back here in that daily squeeze. Got a pretty good push yesterday. Right, squeeze fired long. And it's looking like we're going to gap up to about 430-ish. Which might mean we're taking off the profit here at the open. The actual target is up there at a little closer to 440. Here's my thinking, though. Daily squeeze fired. Off goes Microsoft. We still have that squeeze over here on the 2-day time frame. From what I saw yesterday, it's looking like earnings for Microsoft's going to be towards the end of April. So one thing I'm going to consider, all right, we caught the early push. I think up here at 430, we might lock it in for a double. Anywhere from 90 to 100%. From there, I might take a little bit of that profit. For conversation's sake, I make $1,000 this morning. I'm going to take the $1,000. Then I'm going to take maybe 200 and 250 bucks of that profit. And then based on that 2-day squeeze, I might go out to the April expiration, buy something like a 440, 450 call. Try to have my first trade, finance a second trade for a push into earnings. But I want to do that in a fashion where no matter what happens, I can't get hurt. I make $1,000 on the initial push. I cash it in. I take about 250 of that. I buy a 450 call for the earnings expiration. From there, if Microsoft falls apart, I'm going to walk away with a nice net profit between the two trades. Best case scenario, 2-day squeeze fires, and Microsoft is boogieing towards 445, 450, and we make a little bit mo. So we shall manage that at the open, and then Nvidia here. Nvidia going to gap up about 20 buckaroos. We got the bid and ask around 922, which might mean I'm a little bit late here for a great entry. But you had the big push. All right, pulls back pretty much to the 21 EMA. Really good hold there of that ATR trailing stop. And from there, the star of the show has got to be that 4-hour squeeze. Now, the one level to keep an eye on, we've got the 4-hour trailing stop right around 928, 930, which I think means if they can flip the trailing stop, get that back on the side for the bulls, the 4-hour squeeze here should have the green light to keep that push going. So you got Nvidia, and then we'll jump over here to Meta. Meta has a squeeze on the daily chart and the 4-hour. On the daily chart, we got our slingshot signal. And that's your first heads up that they probably want to fire that squeeze to the upside. And I believe you got one on the 4-hour. Yeah, there you go. So Meta's going to open up around 512-ish. So we're looking at about a $6 or $7 gap up. And then Amazon, the big Zon, daily slingshot squeeze. And to go along with that, you got a 4-hour slingshot squeeze. 4-hour squeeze fires. That should trigger a pretty nice push. During that push, they might trigger that daily squeeze. From there, I think you're getting a bit more upside. And then we've got Netflix. Netflix and chill. As the kids would say, pretty clean. Slingshot squeeze on the daily. a big slingshot squeeze on the 4-hour, and a 30-minute bull squeeze inside of all of that. And we're looking at about a $4 or $5 gap up here for Netflix. The only thing I don't love, and it won't matter anymore, it was a little too far above that 21 EMA for me to consider that a perfect entry. Your Microsoft, your Nvidia, Meta, Amazon, they're a little bit closer to their 21 EMA. Granted, they're all going to gap up this morning, but a good rule of thumb, you find a squeeze, the closer to the 21 EMA you can take your entry, the better off you're going to be from a risk-reward perspective. But nonetheless, Netflix is looking pretty solid. And then a few from the scans. DraftKings a bit gonzo, but I shall show you DraftKings. Talk about a rip. My goodness. My goodness gracious. Beautiful. Beautiful. I didn't catch it, but hopefully a few of you in here did. Really good stuff in DraftKings. And then we got the ELV, a little bit off the beaten path. Not a big tech stock, not a big sexy semiconductor. But I happen to think a pretty sexy looking squeeze here. You've got a monthly squeeze, you've got a 2-day squeeze, a daily, a 4-hour, a 1-hour, a 30, a 15, and the 5. Squeeze on squeeze. And the daily chart is perfect. Picture perfect. Above the trailing stop. The structure is bullish. We got the bull squeeze. We got a buy signal. We've got a perfect big 3 score, 12 out of 12. All of that together makes for an A+ setup. So there is ELV, and then got a few more for you. Let me look at my my notes here. Another one that's kind of gonzo. You got to be quick in this market. Coinbase. Talk about a blast off. Now, here's the thing, right? You pulled back to your 21. They haven't even fired the 4-hour or the 2-hour squeeze, which I would think implies that that Coinbase wants to go a little bit higher. I would think potentially into a brand new high here. We'll go check out the 4. Yeah, pretty solid indeed. So there is Coinbase, and then that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Let me see. Coinbase. I want to say we got a new squeeze here in ANET. We did. Yeah, the push into the close yesterday, pretty much everything kind of took off on you. So therefore, I am glad I'm long Microsoft. But ANET, I think, looks pretty good here. Above that trailing stop, good structure. Bull squeeze, buy signal. The perfect 12 out of 12. And it looks like you've also got a 2-day squeeze setting up. And then even better, we got a buy signal across every time frame. From the weekly all the way down to the 5-minute. But again, there's no lack of good-looking setups. Probabilities-wise, S&Ps and QQQ, if they can fire their daily squeezes to the upside, whether it be ANET or ELV or Microsoft or Meta, Amazon, Netflix, Google, etc., off goes the S&Ps, off goes the QQQ. Off should go most things that have a good setup. So there's a few for you, and the game plan today, we're going to keep an eye here on that Microsoft. We might take our profit up here at 4:30, take a little bit of that profit and roll out into a further call for the earnings expiration. And then on my end, I've got pretty decent trade going here in the QQQ futures. So I'm going to manage that. I am going to manage the Microsoft, and then we'll take it hour by hour. But again, my best piece of advice, and I get it, right? If you look at the monthly chart, we're overbought. We're overbought. We're extended all the way up here at that monthly 3 ATR. Yeah, no doubt. It's a spot where probabilities wise, there might be a pullback around the corner. Where I've got a tough time thinking we're going to get that big pullback today, tomorrow, this week, is when I drop down to a lower time frame. And we're locked and loaded here with a big 4-hour and a big daily squeeze. It might be one thing to take it a bit easy. Maybe you decrease your position size. Maybe you focus a bit more on day trades until things change in a dramatic fashion. I'm of the opinion the last thing we want to do is try to call for a top and try to get short. Do not fight the squeeze. But all right, folks, that's what I got for you. Any questions, anything you want to take a look at, throw it at me here in the chat, and I'll see what you got. I will see what you got. Oh, yeah, one more thing for you. The crude oil futures. If we can get a bit more of a pullback, I think the closer to $80, the better. There might be a fresh opportunity there as well. The daily squeeze just fired. From there, you've got a 2-day squeeze, a weekly squeeze, and a monthly squeeze. And then for a pullback idea, I know what you're thinking. What is a pullback? But for a pullback idea, I still like energy. Got a beautiful weekly squeeze. And I happen to think an even better looking monthly squeeze. The art of buying the dip, it's a matter of what am I buying the dip into? Am I buying a pullback into a weekly uptrend? Am I buying a pullback into a weekly downtrend? Am I buying a pullback into good structure? Am I buying a pullback into bearish structure? You take a name like energy. If we do get a bit of a pullback here, I happen to think you're pulling back into the best setup possible. Pulling back into a beautiful monthly squeeze. Pulling back into a beautiful weekly squeeze. If you take a look at an ExxonMobil, same thing over here. Good looking monthly. Take a look at a Valero. Valero's a total beast. You've got Oxy. You got Chevron. You've got Fang. And you've got that PXD. I think they all look pretty good. But all right, let me get caught up in the chat here, and I'll see what you got. One more thing for you, though. I'm going to be live in my mastery at 10:30 a.m. Central today for an hour of live trading. So for those of y'all that are not in the room, if you want to come check it out, I'll give you the link here. And you can grab a $7 30-day trial. So I shall drop that in the chat. Even crude about to go green. No red allowed. No red allowed. All right, Camillo, what strike would I buy for NVIDIA? All right, we'll take a look at NVIDIA. So my thinking would be if they can fire that 4-hour squeeze, that might open the door for a pushback towards those highs. 980, 990, maybe the big 1,000. So what I'm looking for when I'm buying the calls or the puts, ideally, I want to buy them when they're out the money, with the goal of at some point they end up in the money. So, for example, I'm not going to buy the 1100 call. I don't quite think we're going to go to 1100 in the next 5 or 10 days. But I think if I can buy a 950, a 975, maybe even the 1000 strike, try to give that a couple of weeks to expiration, I think a push into that neighborhood is pretty realistic. You take into consideration NVIDIA's average true range move. The ATR is about, we'll call it about $60. Meaning from here, one average true range move takes you into about 950. Another average true range move takes you into about $1,000. So I think depending on your account size, depending on your budget, I give it 2 to 4 weeks till expiration, and I try to pick those strikes up there at $950 to $1,000. If they're a little bit too pricey, what you could consider doing is the out the money call debit spread. Maybe the 950 call on its own is a little bit too pricey. You could do a 950, 975 debit spread, a 975, 1000 debit spread. Couple different ways to skin the cat. But I think the goal should be, can I buy it when it's out the money? And then within the realms of a realistic move, can the option end up in the money? Take my Microsoft trade, for example. We're taking our entry a little bit under 420. We went out to the April monthly expiration, and we bought the 435. I don't think too much of a stretch for that out the money call to end up at the money or in the money. So things like that. Mangala, I like to day trade in the 30-minute charts that agree with the daily and the 4-hour trend. Yeah, I think that's a great approach. Like NVIDIA, possibly. Take NVIDIA. Clearly, we're in a big daily uptrend. Above the trailing stop, good structure. Everything about it is bullish. Drop down to a 4-hour chart. We got a 4-hour uptrend. And then from there, you got a 30-minute squeeze. You can take that 30-minute squeeze, and you're not going counter trend to the 4-hour. You're not going counter trend to the daily chart. Better yet, you're in alignment with your bigger time frames. 30-minute squeeze in a daily uptrend or a 4-hour uptrend, that squeeze might fire and give you continuation of that bigger picture trend. So yeah, that is right up my alley. I am all about it. Hey, good morning, AJ. Is a pullback a thing anymore? I think a pullback is a little bit like a dinosaur. There's a little bit of proof that one point in time it might have existed, but none of us really know for sure. We've all heard the stories. We've all seen the fossils, but I have never met a man who actually saw a dinosaur. So it's a little bit like a pullback. Now, but with that being said, right, all jokes aside, we got to do two things at once, right? We got to respect the fact that we're in an incredibly strong market. We got to respect the fact that we have buy signals, squeezes, right? All kinds of potential for things to keep going higher. While at the same time, we should respect the fact that, we don't end up here at monthly 3 ATR all that often. There's the easy part of the push, and then there's the last leg of the push. The easy part of the push, it's always going to be the move from the 21 EMA into that 2.5 to 3 ATR. Right? That's true on a 5-minute. That's true on a daily chart. And I think the same is true all the way up here on a monthly chart. The worst thing you could do, and believe me, I've done it before. All right, you catch a big squeeze, and for 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 30 weeks in a row, they're pushing, and they're pushing, they're pushing, they're pushing. All right, every day, every week, you keep on making more money. All right, you are loving life. You finally got trading all figured out. I've seen this time and time again. In a market like this, it is not difficult to make money. The freaking thing just goes higher every single day. In that kind of situation, most traders make some good money. But the market's got a real knack for making sure at some point in the future, they want their money back. Everybody makes money on the way up. When the party comes to an end, when we get the pullback, I've seen so many traders give back all of their profit. Back here, they got a $50,000 account. Up here, they got a $200,000 account. And then the inevitable happens, the market pulls back a bit, and their account is back to $50,000. The last thing I think you want to do is fight this bull market and fight that big squeeze. At the same time, though, put yourself in a position where if tomorrow morning is the beginning of the pullback, make sure you can't get hurt too bad. Right? If there's such thing as an aggressiveness scale, position sizing, time till expiration, strike selection, right? All the different ways we can be aggressive. I think we want to be our most aggressive at the very beginning of that move. You find a big weekly squeeze, you find a big monthly squeeze. Back here, you're getting pretty aggressive. I think you're taking bigger position sizes. I think you're buying more aggressive options. And then when we're all the way up here at that monthly 3 ATR, don't fight the market. Don't blindly get short just because, hey, we're overbought. But if anything, make a few adjustments so that if the market does crash, you're not going to get back all your profits over the course of the entire push. You can scale down in position sizing. You can give your trades a bit more time to expiration. Couple different things you can do to make sure, hey, if we keep on pushing, and from here the SPX goes to 5,300, 5,400, 5,500, you want to keep on making money. While at the same time, if we wake up to a giant crash, make sure you're not giving it all back. Very, very important. We'll see how long the party lasts for. It's an election year, which historically is pretty bullish. I'm kind of taking it day by day. No biases, no assumptions. I'm just trading the chart in front of me, doing that with appropriate risk, and you keep on keeping on. All right, what else y'all got? S-More, will we get a big pullback in energy? I mean, selfishly, I would like one. I'd like to buy energy. The only thing that makes a pullback here a little tricky, yeah, we fired the daily squeeze. We're a little bit overbought on the daily chart. But then you got that weekly squeeze. The weekly squeeze calls for a push into 95. And they might want to get the job done here without a bigger pullback. You know, there's the power of the nested squeeze. If the only time frame in energy that had a squeeze was our daily chart, then I'd be thinking a bit more, yeah, we're due for a pullback. They only had a daily squeeze. It fired to the upside. They hit the target. might be time for a pullback. The power of that nested squeeze, you've got a daily, a weekly, a monthly, all setting up at the same time. The push from that daily squeeze might just wake up that weekly squeeze. That thing wants 95. If we get to 95, that might just wake up that monthly squeeze. The monthly wants $100 and change. That's why I think it's so important when we're building out our watch list, we're doing our scans. We really want to pay attention to those bigger squeeze setups. If you got 2, 3, 4 bigger time frames, all printing a squeeze at the same exact time, you've got to catch that early. From there, that can really turn into a runaway train. So I'd like to think we get a pullback here, but when I look at that weekly chart, that it kind of suggests if we get a pullback, it's not going to be a big one. I think that bad boy wants to go for it. Mangella, I'm glad you found the channel as well. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you all being here. Michael, good morning, my friend. So the green dots and the red dots, and you can change the settings. I've got them set to 3. Those measure 3 average true range moves above and below that 21 EMA. In a bit more of a normal market, I'd probably drop that down to about 2 to 2.5. But in the market we're in, not too tough to get a push towards that 3 and change ATR. So those are measuring average true range moves. Okay, another good question. How does a trailing stop factor into to my strategy? All of the indicators I use, it's all in an effort to try to get myself on the right side of the path of least resistance. If I can find a nice looking daily squeeze and the weekly chart, the daily chart, the 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour, like everything from the ground up is above the trailing stop, to me, it's a bit more conviction, a bit more clarity. If I've got buyer signals, I got squeezes, and everything's trading above that trailing stop, I've got a pretty good sense I want to get on the right side of that move. Then we find something where it's a bit more mixed. The weekly chart is above it. The daily chart is below it. The 4 hours below it. The 30-minute is above it. It's a little bit too much mix match. So for me, it's more of a confirmation tool. For example, pull up. Who's a good example? Maybe Eli Lilly. I think a better example is BRK. Okay, perfect. So yesterday, the ATR trailing stop was up here at about 411-ish. From there, I can identify that as a level where, hey, if we're going to break out, we got to get on the right side of that trailing stop. If they can't flip that in the favor of the bulls, that might be a bit of a brick wall. So I could use it for more confirmation. And then for a trade, I can also use it as a trailing stop, as the name would suggest. Take my trade here on the NQ. I'm buying the thing all the way back here at 18,270. I can ride that 1-hour trailing stop until the thing finally shifts. All right. Had a little pullback this morning before the gym. Pretty good hold of that trailing stop. Therefore, I keep on riding the wave. Looking for another $50 here, guys. If you want to buy the NQ for me, if you want to help your pal T get another $50 here, I'd appreciate it. I'll take you all the chilies. If you can keep it pushing for me. VRT. Let's take a look at VRT. All right, so we don't have a daily squeeze, which is a general statement. That's my favorite setup in the whole wide world. However, this thing's really bullish. It's above the trailing stop. You got really good structure. We got a buy signal. We got a perfect 12 out of 12. It's as bullish as possible. I might not have my daily squeeze. I might have an entry back here at that 21 EMA. So for me, I wouldn't look at it so much as a big swing trade opportunity. But given how strong it is, given how bullish it is, I could look for a day trade opportunity. I've got a really bullish daily chart. Structure, momentum, the trailing stop, the signals, everything pointing towards the path of least resistance is to the upside. So long as that continues, right? For conversation's sake, they take it from 78 to 80, from 80 to 82, 85, 90. Along the way, not all of them, but a lot of your lower time frame squeezes, they should fire in the direction of that bigger trend. They keep the party going. Your 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute hourly squeezes, a lot of them will fire to the upside. It might not be my core swing trading setup, but I can acknowledge how bullish it is. I can acknowledge how strong it is. And then I can drop down to my 30-minute time frame, go find myself a 30-minute squeeze, go find myself a good-looking 2-hour squeeze. And then ideally on a day trade basis, I can milk that thing for whatever it's got left. And if they go from 78 to 80 to 90 to 100, I can wake up and keep on doing that every single day until the party finally comes to an end. Where a name like a Microsoft, where we had that squeeze, we had an entry a little closer to that 21 EMA, or we had that bigger compression, that buildup of energy, I want to swing trade that. So good question there. All right, how are we doing on time? All right, a few more minutes here, guys. Shop in net. Yeah, shop's coming to life a bit. Now, what I would want to do here, I don't have my A+ setup on the daily chart. And it's on a bad setup, but it's not, in my book, picture perfect. Structure is neutral. The squeeze is neutral. The signals are neutral. But with my big 3 score being a 7 out of 12, that tells me things do lean in the favor of the bulls. Right now, the ball is in the court of the bulls. From there, can I go find my perfect setup somewhere? And I think you're looking at that big 4-hour squeeze. Then I can take that and make that my my moment in time. So shop is coming to life, and then net. Nice. Yeah, little slingshot action for you. All right, they pulled it back. They break momentum. Momentum going through a bit of a bear cycle. They never broke the structure. Right? They never broke the foundation of the chart. 21 above the 50. 50 above the 200. 200 keeps trending higher. The 50 keeps trending higher. We don't have a structure problem. We've had a momentum problem. With our slingshot signal, the blue arrow, that's your first heads up. They're fixing that momentum problem. It might not be positive. It might not be back above that zero line, but we are getting that turn. A little bit like back here. Price pulls back. Bear cycle in momentum. They never broke the structure. Momentum turns back up towards zero. That blue arrow, that's your early heads up. You sat through a pullback. Structure is perfect. You got to squeeze. The blue arrow says, hey, pay attention. They might want to take this thing and fire it to the upside. So I do like net. Very solid. Very solid. All right, folks, a few more here. See what you got. Thanks, Neil. Keith, crowd. Morning, Keith. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Slingshot. Good structure. 10 out of 12. And then, like everything else in the market, 4-hour squeeze. 4-hour squeeze fires. That might wake up that daily squeeze. The daily squeeze fires. That might wake up that 2-day squeeze. Squeeze on, squeeze action. All right, PANW. The only thing I could do here with PANW would be a day trade. And I could day trade it in either direction. For me, the reason I don't want to swing trade it, when I look at my daily chart, I'm not getting much clarity here from my signals. We are below the trailing stop. The structure is not bullish, it's not bearish, it's neutral. The big three signals, they're not bullish, they're not bearish, it's neutral. And we've got a big three score of a -1. For a swing trade opportunity, that makes it a little bit of a tough read. Not crazy bullish, not crazy bearish, where Microsoft, for example, got a big three score of 12 out of 12. It can't get much more bearish or bullish rather than that. If I look at a Boeing's got a -8. A -8, that's a pretty good short. You look at an Intel. Oh, no, Intel's only a -1. So what I would do on Palo Alto, I'm going to drop down to a lower time frame, and I want to try to find my clarity to call for direction on a lower time frame, ideally with a squeeze. And we got a few here, so check out that 30-minute. Not crazy bullish, not crazy bearish, a 1 out of 12, right, a little bit more neutral. On the 1 hour, we got a -5. That leans a little bit more bearish, but I don't think a great short. On the 2-hour time frame, -10, that does make for a better short. And then on the 4-hour, we got a -6. So see what happens here today. That one's a little bit mixed. Couple time frames are neutral, couple time frames are a bit more bearish. But as we know, getting short in this market has been not the easiest game at all. But all right, y'all, I'm gonna let you go here and take a look at my Microsoft. All right, nice little gap up. So I'll let y'all go here. I'm gonna go manage my open trades, and then for those of you in the mastery, I will see you at 10:30 a.m. Central. For the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same channel. As always, guys and gals, thank you for your time. Much appreciated, and I'll talk to you soon. Adios.